Okay. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I hate this section. Okay, but we can do this. Mostly we can do this because you don't have to identify these on a model or a diagram. You just have to know what they do. And the cool thing about what they do is that their names are what they do. They do what they do it to. As long as we remember that, then we can keep all this straight, okay? Once we get to the hands, there's a couple of muscles that don't play by those rules. There's only a few, okay? Others are just what they do it too. You ready? Okay, let's learn these. Oh my God, supinator, pronator. How easy, okay. We have two pronator muscles, a pronator teres here, and a pronator quadratus down in the wrist. Okay, what do? They pronate. Then here, closer to the elbow, we have a supinator that kind of does this weird like wrap around the radius. What does it do? Supinates. Supinator, pronator teres, pronator quadratus. Okay, again, do not have to identify these on a model or a diagram. You just got to know what they do. But if I ask you, what muscle would you use to supinate the forearm, you better be able to say supinator. All right, now, one principle that I do want you to be aware of is the anterior compartment of the forearm and the posterior compartment of the forearm. The muscles in the anterior compartment primarily flex the wrist, the MP, remember metacarpophalangeal joints, and the interphalangeal joints, okay? So these muscles are gonna originate here, and then they're gonna have tendons that go into the hand, okay? So that's what you're looking at here. Here's our brachioradialis, yeah? And then we have a bunch of muscles in this anterior compartment that are gonna flex things, okay? We have a flexor carpi radialis. What's it gonna do? It's gonna flex the carpal bones on the radial side, right? If we flex just that one, we flex that way, like toward the radius, okay? If we use the flexor carpi radialis and the extensor carpi radialis, brevis and longus, then we're going to try to do this and this toward this side at the same time, and we end up, boink, turning the wrist. When you do this, you're using the three radialis muscles together with then the two ulnaris muscles, then the radialis muscles, then the ulnaris muscles, radialis, ulnaris, radialis, ulnaris. How fun is that, right? Okay. At the wrist, these are all covered. The tendons are covered by this flexor retinaculum, which is just this wide ligament that goes across the carpal bones. Makes a little tunnel underneath, called the carpal tunnel. And there's one muscle that doesn't go through it. Okay, first let's talk about the carpal tunnel. All right, so we have the tendons for the flexor digitorum, two flexor digitorum muscles. There's a superficialis and there's a profundus. Superficialis, superficial, profundus, deep, okay? So one of them is superficial in the carpal tunnel, the other goes deep through the carpal tunnel. We have flexor pollicis. Guess what it's gonna do? Flex the pollex. Yeah, okay. And all of those are gonna be sort of within this cavity created by the carpal tunnel, except this one. Trouble child. Okay, if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, then you have irritated one of these tendons going through here, or any of the structures in the articular capsule. It could be a bursa, it could be tendon sheath, anything, okay? But something going through there is irritated. You're gonna have numbness and pain in your fingers in particular. And it probably stops when you stop doing whatever motion it was that gave you carpal tunnel in the first place. The problem is whatever gave you carpal tunnel is probably part of your job because life sucks. All right, now, Palmaris longus. Cool muscle. All right, so here's a video It's a link to a video that talks about evidence for evolution in your body. One of the things it talks about is this Palmaris Longus muscle, which is a leftover from some of our primate ancestors, and we don't even use it. Like you may not even have it. How do you know if you have it? Take your thumb and pinky, put them in opposition, okay? And then bend your wrist, just flex your wrist a little bit. People always try to do this. Okay, that's not gonna work. Okay, just flex your wrist a little bit. Okay, this works best if you do it with your the back of your hand on a desk and then just pull your palm up a little bit. But what you're going to see is you're going to see a tendon there. That's not the one you're looking for. The one you're looking for is the one that bows out right there. That is your Palmaris longus. I happen to have them on both sides. Some people don't have any. Some people only have one. Here's the thing. The reason that your other tendons don't bow out is because they go under this flexor retinaculum that prevents them from bowing out like that, okay? Now, the other thing you need to realize is that these tendons come down and then they spread out to flex these four fingers, 2 through 5, separately. Okay, so we're gonna have separate control for the thumb and fingers 2 through 5. For those of you who are thinking, wasn't there like separate neural control, like different spinal nerves, like from the brachial plexus for like 2 through 4.5 or something like that? Yeah, it's really complicated. And depending on how you got wired, that's why some people can't do live long and prosper. Okay. All right, flexor carpi ulnare flexes the wrist on the ulnar side. Oh, okay, now what else do you need to know? Flexor carpi radialis flexes the wrist on the radial side. Flexor retinaculum. Okay. Flexor digitorum superficialis. What's it going to do? Flex the fingers. Flexor digitorum profundus. What's it going to do? It's going to flex the fingers. One of them goes all the way to the distal phalanx. One of them stops at the intermediate phalanx. Okay. Now, the posterior compartment muscles are going to be extensors. Makes sense, right? These on the anterior department, these are flexors. On the posterior compartment, these are going to extend. They're going to extend the wrist, the MP joints, and the IP joints. Okay, all of that is going to be posterior compartment. So what do we have? Extensor carpi radialis longus. We already knew that one. We got a longus, we got a brevis. Extensor carpi radialis brevis. Extend the wrist on the radial side. If we have a radialis, we have an ulnaris, extensor carpi ulnaris. Okay. The extensor digitorum, what's it going to do? Extend the fingers. You only have one. Okay? It extends digits 2 through 5. You have an extensor pollicis, and it's so extra, a pollicis, a brevis, and a longus. Don't get me started. You have abductor pollicis and adductor pollicis. Oh my God. Again, you don't have to identify these muscles. You just have to know what they do. Don't freak out. Okay. We do have another extensor retinaculum across the back of the wrist, across the carpals on the back. There's nothing that doesn't go through it. All of the tendons for these muscles go through it. Then deep, we have the supinator, the abductor pollicis longus, another extensor, So that's what all that is. Okay, we got bursa going through there. We got tendon sheaths going through this. It's freaking complicated. The posterior compartment muscles extend. They're covered by the extensor retinaculum. Fine. All right. Intrinsic muscles of the hands mean these muscles are completely within the hand, mostly in the palm of the hand. Mostly what you have in your fingers are just tendons. You don't have a muscle actually in the fingers. All right, so 3 sets of muscles in the hand. I do want you to know what they do. Don't have to be identify them or distinguish them. Okay, so we have, did I not? Okay, I did. All right, the lumbricals. And I want you to know these because I think they're wackadoodle. There's 4 muscles and they're kind of on the palmar side of the hand, and they connect the metacarpals together, okay? They insert and originate on tendons within the hand. So they're a little wackadoodle. And here's what they do. They do that, okay? they flex the MP joint and extend the IP joints in 2 through 5. Not the thumb, ignore the thumb. Okay. The way I remember this is that if you turn this upside down, it makes an L. So lumbrical, L. I know it's not that helpful, but there you go. All right, then we have interossei. Their name suggests they are between bones. Interossei, get it? Between the bones. They're going to sit between the metacarpals in your hand. And these interossei in the palmar side are going to adduct the fingers. Okay? On the dorsal side, they're going to abduct. Okay? Adduct, abduct, adduct, abduct. It's easier to bring your fingers together as you bend them. Okay? If you're trying to bend them and abduct them, it's actually kind of hard to do. That's because the abductor muscles are back here along with your extensor muscles. Make sense? Okay, so palmar interossei adduct, dorsal interossei abduct. Is your brain full yet? There you go. Again, don't have to recognize them on a diagram, just have to know what they do. All right. This seems kind of incongruous. Why is she talking about Muhammad Ali all of a sudden? Well, we're going to do a little review first. Here we go. Ready? Deltoid, trapezius, pectoralis major, biceps brachii, and triceps brachii. And you can actually see the little indentation back here from his triceps. Brachialis mostly actually covered up by the biceps because the biceps brachii and the triceps are fully flexed in that position. Brachioradialis and extensor carpi radialis longus, and then all of these extensor muscles flexed as he's flexing that he's extending the wrist, sorry, extensor muscles, as he's extending that wrist and clenching his fist. Those are all. All right, so why do I want to talk about this besides, okay, cool historical picture. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story. You know what? No, I'm going to tell you the story. I was going to stop, but I'm not going to stop. Okay, it's a long video. Get over it. Okay, here's the story. This is one of the most famous pictures in sports. For as long as people have been taking pictures of sports, this picture right here is one of the most famous pictures in sports. There's 2 versions of it. There's a black and white that was taken by a guy named John Rooney. And then there's this color picture taken by Neil Leifer, who was shooting for Time magazine in this incredibly important fight between Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston in 1965. What's important about this fight, and I think this really resonates for us today, is that at this point, Muhammad Ali had become more aware of racism in America and its effect on people. He had converted to Islam, and he changed his name from Cash. America was not happy about that. He had also then declared himself to be a conscientious objector for the war in Vietnam. And he had said, I will not go fight in Vietnam. I have nothing against the people in Vietnam. I have something against the police in the United States who are killing Black people for no reason. Yeah, I know some things never change. But I don't have anything against them. And so I'm not going to fight in Vietnam. So at this point, he was a very, very unpopular figure. Newspapers didn't even want to call him Muhammad Ali. They called him Cassius Clay. And no one wanted him to win this fight. No one in white America wanted him to win this fight. So all of the big publications of the day sent their absolute best sports photographers, including all of these men you see back here and the men who took this picture. Yeah, I know, no women were allowed to do this. And in fact, women weren't supposed to be at a fight like this. This was not something women were supposed to enjoy. Thank you very much. Here's the thing. Neil Leifer got this amazing shot. And he got this amazing shot for several reasons. And one of which was that he was one of the absolute best sports photographers in the history of sports. He was amazing. He had been doing it for years. He had been studying it. He studied all the photo magazines every week to see how photographers bracketed and how they use light and what made a photograph great. He studied it, he practiced. He finally got this amazing job shooting for Time magazine. He was the only person at the fight shooting in color. Everybody else was using black and white film. This was right at the time when color film was starting to be used. And he got this shot because he was ready and he was there and he had the skills and he had practiced and he knew the personalities of Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. And he knew that if he got a shot of Muhammad Ali knocking out Sonny Liston and then he kept paying attention, there's a really good chance that Muhammad Ali was going to celebrate that victory. He's screaming at Liston right now, get up, get up. So he waited and he got that shot. Notice this guy over here? Yeah, a couple of these guys look down. They're all trying to get good shots. You know who this guy is right here? He's the other best sports photographer on the planet. And what did he get his shot at? He got a really nice shot of Muhammad Ali's butt. Now he got some other amazing shots from that fight because he was one of the best sports photographers on the planet. But he got a shot of Muhammad Ali's butt. He didn't get this shot. And you know why? Not because he wasn't good at it. Not because he wasn't the best photographer there. He got a shot of Muhammad Ali's butt because he was on the wrong side of the ring at that moment. That's not his fault. He didn't know which side the great moment was going to be facing. How could anybody know that? So I want to tell you this story because I think this is important, because we always think if we get an opportunity or we lose an opportunity, especially when we lose an opportunity, we think it's because of something I did. I must not have been good enough. I must not have done it well enough. And I'm here to tell you it's not. A lot of the times, the reason things don't work out for us is chance. We were standing on the wrong side of the ring. We got a picture of Muhammad Ali's butt. But that doesn't mean you don't keep trying to take the best picture you can, to do the best that you can. You still come prepared. Every man on this side of the ring, they've brought their best equipment. They've all practiced. They've worked hard. They've studied photography. They've studied boxing. They've studied these boxers. They've worked with the light. They know their equipment up and down. They know exactly what they're doing. You make sure that when you get an opportunity, you bring everything you have to bring. Make sure that you are there with all of your skills, with the best equipment you can get. Maybe you can't afford the best equipment, but bring the best equipment you can afford. Make sure that you have everything that you need. But then you know what? Remember that sometimes luck isn't on your side. So this is Neil Leifer, did an interview back in 2002, talking to a couple guys about this photograph and some other photographs in a book of his work. And he said, you know, this guy you see between Ali's legs, this is Herbie Scharfman. And it didn't make a difference how good he was that night. What makes a difference is when the choice happens, when the opportunity happens, that you're in the right place and you don't miss. So I'm here to encourage you. I know at this point, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm never gonna get through this. You are, and you are building up skills. And you're gonna practice, and you're gonna work hard. And all I'm saying is when you get that chance, you make sure you're bringing all your skills. And don't miss. And if you do, there'll be another time. Herbie Scharfman went on to get a picture of Roger Maris hitting his 61st home run, setting the home run record that stood for, God, what, 30 years. So practice, work hard, be ready, bring it. Don't forget that sometimes you're on the wrong side of the ring. And make sure that when you're on the right side of the ring, you bring everything you've got to that. And with that, I will leave you for today. Have a good day.